listening to Talking Hoosier Baseball,
a podcast
by fans from the IUBase.com website.
For anyone wanting more information on the Indiana University baseball program.
Welcome. We are recording this on Wednesday, September 16th, 2020. I'm Cassidy Palmer, joined by Master of the RPI, Carl James, the creator of IUBase.com, Josh Bennett, and our guest, Indiana baseball right-handed pitcher, McCade Brown. Carl has some Hoosier highlights to lead us off today.
Yes, Cassidy, I do. And I'll have to say this, it's just been an amazing season to watch Hoosiers in the pros. And here we go. The seventh Hoosier to play Major League Baseball this year took the mound on Sunday. We've got some great information that was passed on to us by Pro Ball Hoosiers. Jonathan Stever, in his White Sox debut, pitched 3.2 innings with 2 hits, gave up 1 run, which was earned, and 2 walks, but all that was in the first inning. 3 total strikeouts. He got the last 9 guys he faced out. That was a little bit shaky first inning, but once he got out of that inning, he just looked like a major league pitcher, hitting his spots, mixing up pitches and velocity, locating really well, getting to the low end of the zone or just outside the zone, getting players to chase. It was a very impressive outing for Jonathan Stever, coming only 2 years after he was drafted, and having never played AA or AAA ball. So that was extremely impressive. This also makes him the 6th Hoosier to play for the White Sox. And he follows a pretty impressive group of Sammy Esposito, Ted Klaczewski, Barry Jones, Josh Fegley, and Micah Johnson. Another big thing here is if you stack up this season of college players in the Major League Baseball within the Big Ten, Indiana has had 7 so far this season. Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Purdue have each had 3. So that's over double that next level. Illinois and Northwestern have each had 2. Iowa, Michigan State, Ohio State have had 1. Minnesota, Penn State, and Rutgers have yet to have anyone play in the show this season. And in case you needed to remember, Wisconsin doesn't play baseball. So I know I always have to throw that out in some way, but I thought that was a good place to throw that out. Okay. So I will get off my strange obsession with Wisconsin baseball and the fact that they still, strangely enough, have a flag at the BART. But I will now pass it on to Cass, who's got some summer league stats for McCade Brown.
Yeah, so I took a look at the stats from this summer, and McCade had a phenomenal summer with a .37 ERA in 19 innings of work. He had 44 strikeouts in 19 innings, and he gave up just 2 hits, which that all is just phenomenal and great to see over the summer. So McCade, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so I'll get started with our first question, McCade. So we'll go back to your high school days. So how was it being a multi-sport athlete at Normal West?
Yeah, I loved it. I grew up in a household that kind of always had sports around, so was always playing a different one or watching something, or I was in the gym with my mom since she's a college coach. But I was always playing sports. So yeah, freshman year I was actually playing 4: hockey, basketball, soccer, and baseball. Cut that down to 3 sophomore year with basketball, baseball, and soccer. And then junior year, cut it down to just soccer and baseball, and same with senior year. But I loved it. And all the coaches at West were great about just making it work, making sure guys could play multiple sports and stuff. So that was also really nice that they were encouraging it actually, and made it really smooth to be able to do that. I love being able to play multiple sports.
So was there ever a time where you were considering maybe soccer over baseball?
Yeah. Actually, freshman and sophomore year, I would like baseball in college and stuff just wasn't even really on my mind at all. Um, and soccer, I just 100% was like all in to go play college soccer somewhere. And junior year, kind of had a little bit of a change here in baseball and kind of started to think about it a little more. And it ended up by the end of junior year, I was like, all right, this is what I want to go with. I want to follow baseball and stuff. And and the nice thing I think was that my soccer coach in high school was super supportive. And I mean, when I decided that I wanted to do baseball in college instead, I mean, he was letting me miss practices here and there to go to different camps and stuff for baseball. So I think I was really lucky to kind of have that support when I ended up changing my mind.
So you had a big growth spurt between your sophomore and junior year. Did that factor in any?
Yeah, I actually had a big factor into it. So yeah, I grew probably 4 to 5 inches going into junior year, and kind of sophomore year I was pitching a little bit, like a little bit more than freshman year definitely, but was pitching just a little bit. Sophomore year was throwing around like 80, and then all of a sudden coming into junior year I was throwing like topping out at 89, and so kind of jumping 8 or 9 miles an hour in just that year along with the growth spurt. And so that's kind of when I really realized, like, man, I got a shot at playing this in college, and I've always had kind of that love of the game. So just when I had that opportunity, I was like, I got to take that and continue with baseball. So definitely played a big role into it.
So, McCade, being a multi-sport athlete, was there ever any interest in trying to be a two-way player at IU?
Well, not really. Hitting wise, I'm not very talented with that. Obviously hitting's fun and stuff, and obviously if I had the opportunity to do that, it'd be cool. But skill wise, there's not a chance I would ever be able to hit. It's kind of funny actually, because freshman summer we were all here, and me and some of the pitchers went over to the field to hit, and I maybe got like 4 swings in before they were like, yeah, you should probably put that down and never touch one of those again. So yeah, hitting definitely isn't really a strong suit of mine.
So do you feel that your height is an advantage on the mound for you?
Yeah, I would say it is. I think one way I feel that it is just we throw bullpens with the Rapsodo setup, which gives us a lot of the data and input. And two of the categories that are on there are the extension at release, and then the height at which we're releasing the ball at. And so I think like the first thing being that extension being a little taller, the stride out can be a little farther, and then also the longer arm gets you a little closer, and that extension cuts down the distance the ball's got to go. So that like perceived velocity, I guess, can be a little higher. So I think that's an advantage. And then also just with the release height, I mean, you're releasing it maybe a couple inches higher, and that just changes the plane at which it's coming in. So it's maybe a little more downward than straight in. So I think that's definitely an advantage there as well.
So did such a large growth spurt require a change in your mechanics?
Yeah. So mechanics wise, I mean, there's always stuff changing. I guess like every year there's different little tweaks to try and get more efficient, I guess. But really had a big change in mechanics going into that junior year with that growth spurt. So I was working with my pitching coach back home, Josh Counting, a lot on that. And he was super big help, but definitely changed there. And honestly, the biggest change in mechanics was probably freshman and sophomore year, which I had a little bit more of a growth there too. Not as big as going into junior year, but kind of freshman year, I wasn't serious about pitching. So mechanics were like really out of whack. I mean, I was doing like a dance on the mound before I'd throw it. It was bad. But then sophomore year, when I started to see Josh Counting, he really cleaned it up and actually kind of looked like a pitcher for once. So I guess that's when the mechanics changed the most, but definitely like have been changing a lot over the course, just from the height changes and the weight changes and everything.
So McCade, can you tell us about some of your favorite games playing in high school? And you can talk about baseball or soccer or whatever you want to touch on.
I think 2 for baseball stand out, 2 different spots. And one is every year we ended up playing, we played Friday night game at the Corn Crib, which the Corn Crib is the stadium that I played summer ball at this year. But so that's right down the road from my high school. And we play a game there against like an in-town rival, University High School. And so it's under the lights, it's like the only time all year we play under the lights. So that obviously just makes it pretty cool. And, but it's a good event too. We get like a big turnout, and it's through the event's based around the MC Strong Foundation. But so we get a big turnout, and it's usually a pretty competitive game and a lot of fun. So that's probably the first one of like, that's usually a favorite game that I always like think back to. And then senior year, so every year the team goes down to Gulf Shores, Alabama for like a spring break trip. And it's usually really fun, like a lot of team bonding and stuff. But so we played Fairhope. Fairhope, Alabama was a school we went to and played, and we knew they were a pretty good team going in and stuff. But when we got there, before the game even starts, they're already kind of chirping a little bit, so energy's kind of high, a little bit of a back and forth with them, and so that made it already just kind of a fun game there. But top of the first, we ended up scoring 7 runs, and so like great start to a game. But the inning actually ended by one of my good buddies hit a home run, and he goes around the bases. The next thing you know, they said he missed second and called him out to end the inning. So then we go into the bottom of the first. Obviously we're pretty heated about that, and their team's still yelling at us and stuff. And we had a really good sophomore starting on the mound. He's really talented, and he ended up not being his best day. And so he gave up 7 before we got an out.
Ouch.
And so it's 7-7, no out, bottom of the first. And so I ended up coming in, and like the tensions were high. So I feel like that game alone, I was just mentally in like a different spot than usual. And I ended up striking out the side, and we went on to the top of the second to score 7 more runs. But the reason why this game stands out, I think, a lot too, is the kid who got called out for not touching the bag the inning before, he hit another home run, and this time every base he stomped on it and made sure they knew he touched it. Definitely remember that one. And but yeah, we ended up going on and beating them pretty good, and they ended up not scoring anymore. And I think the best part too at the end was one of the parents came over from their team and was like, they haven't seen anybody beat them the way we did that game. So that game usually stands out. Still talk to my high school coach about it to this day. So definitely one that sticks out for me.
So the Connie Mack World Series is a pretty special event. What in particular really stands out about that? What did you enjoy with that?
I think the atmosphere there, it was just incredible. I mean, at that point, that was probably like one of the best atmospheres I've ever been a part of. And, you show up in town, and you go to the meeting place kind of to meet with your host families, but then there's also just a bunch of people from in town waiting there for like autographs from the guys as they show up and stuff. And then I think it's either the next day or 2 days later, we do the parade, and it's like the whole town's out there for the parade, just kind of watching and stuff. So that makes it pretty cool. Like, it means a lot to them, and they enjoy it. But then like you get to the first game at the stadium, and they pack the place, and it gets pretty energized in there, and it's a lot of fun. And so I think that's one thing that stands out, is just the atmosphere they have there. And it's to the point where everybody wants to be there. When you're not playing a game, like you still go to the field and watch the other games just to be kind of a part of that. So that's definitely something that stands out for me.
And it seems like there's plenty of cool stuff to do off the field after the games too. Yeah.
Like I said, we were all kind of just going to the field after our own games to watch the other ones, just because the atmosphere is great, and especially when the hometown team's playing, it really gets packed in there. And but yeah, off the field too, I had a great setup with my host family down there for that week, and so they had a place by a lake not too far. So one of the days we went over there and got to spend some time there. And one of the kids on the team is actually from Farmington, so we went to his house and played some video games and jumped in the pool a bit for some free time. But it was a great time. Just a lot of things that we did, and just getting to see kind of the town, it was enjoyable. I've never been down there before, and it was awesome. So.
And what did you learn the most from playing with Midland?
I'd say there's probably like 2 things, I guess, that stand out like a lot. And so the pitching coach was Coach Warden. And so the first thing, I guess, is he always talked about kind of these 2 situations that you're in as a pitcher. It's either like a red light situation or a green light situation. And so the green light was always like you're grooving, you're doing well, and so that's like you're getting the ball back and you're getting right back on the mound and getting ready to go to kind of keep that tempo up. But the second thing he talked about was the more important part, I think, was the red light situation, when things aren't going your way. He talked about, you step off the back of the mound, maybe turn around, pick out like a tree out behind center field, and just kind of take a couple deep breaths, rub the ball up a little bit, just take a second, and then to kind of regather yourself and then step back up there. And I think I learned a lot from just like him talking about that, because in the past I would, like, if I wasn't doing well, I would just keep getting back up there and wouldn't change anything really, or like even just take a second to like gather myself. And so definitely like that stood out to me as like a big piece. And then second learning thing I think that stood out was he talked about, well, the saying Coach Horton said all the time was, "So what, next pitch?" And Coach Parker's talked about it here at IU a lot too, is like the pitch before doesn't matter. So, you could have thrown your best pitch ever or your worst pitch ever. But what matters is now like how you're going to execute your next pitch. And I think I used to get stuck up a lot on like riding the wave kind of how I was doing. That last pitch was a bad pitch. That's going to carry over into this next pitch, and then it's going to keep toppling over and just not going the right way. But I think at Midland, I really started to understand like what that meant to like, so what, next pitch, like just get back to that mindset of like, just execute that next pitch that's coming in. So definitely two of the bigger things I learned there.
Well, your name has shown up on MLB draft lists before. They were all over them in the fall last year. But this summer, you've gotten quite a bit of national attention as a prospect. What are you doing to kind of keep yourself focused and on the season, and what you got to do for the coming spring?
Yeah, definitely was getting a little more recognition than before this summer, and I appreciate like kind of all the good things they had to say, but I guess you can't get distracted by it too much. And so I appreciate like I said, all the things they say, but it's just a matter of like, seeing what they say you need to work on, and then just getting back to work and kind of putting it off to the side and just getting back to what you need to do. Because rankings, like, you may get ranked at a certain point, but that doesn't mean anything going into season really. Like, that doesn't mean you're going to perform well just because you got ranked somewhere. Like, you still got to work, and you still actually have to perform to back those things up. So I think you just kind of push it to the side and just get back to work.
So McCade, as Cass mentioned in her stats, you had an extremely successful summer. Can you tell us a little bit about where you think you made the biggest strides in your game?
Yeah. So one of the things, I guess, is I changed my leg lift and kind of how I was driving. So that's something that's changed actually every year that I've been here at IU. Was freshman year, I was kind of a little lazy with like my drive. I was kind of floating and stuff. And so I was everything. I don't know if you remember, but everything would be like up in the arm side or spiked in the dirt, like glove side. So I tried to fix that this sophomore year and this past year, and kind of had something that figured out, but it still wasn't great. So then going into the summer, I knew I really had to find something that worked for me. And so that leg drive, I kind of sink more into my back hip a little bit and try and push off there. And I think that's what really made me have the biggest strides. Was I wasn't really aiming the ball as much anymore and like trying to guide it in there. I was more of just kind of letting it go. And honestly, it helped my command more doing that, and also gained a little velocity through that. So I think that was probably one of the bigger strides. And then I didn't throw a lot of changeups in the games this summer, but I think the changeup took like a big leap this summer, where I feel really comfortable with how I grip it and how I throw it now, and knowing how it should move. So I think those are kind of two of the bigger things that happened. I guess the final thing would be, like, I feel like my confidence got a lot better this summer. I kind of trusted my stuff a little bit more, whereas in the past, I was worried about leaving balls too much over the middle and stuff. And so, like I said, I was really trying to like guide it in there. But this summer, I really like kind of trusted where it was going to like that. I trusted that my stuff would beat guys, and just kind of like let it go in there. And that's where I found a lot of success.
Well, we know that most kids really start pitching at a pretty young age. And as we've kind of talked about tonight, you only really started to get into it in your sophomore year of high school. With you also being a year younger than most of your classmates, you haven't necessarily had quite as much time to really develop your game. Do you feel you've been able to catch up in the development of your game?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that, I wasn't like I'm not like lagging behind too much or anything. Obviously, I did start later, and I am a little bit younger than the guys in my grade, but I think I fit in just fine, and that's one thing is when I did get kind of started into pitching, like I said, my pitching coach back home, Josh, he really helped me going from freshman to sophomore year and have some changes in that. And so I think just his help along the way, and then Coach Parker's here has just really just kept me up to speed with everything and really, really helped me get to where I am. So can't thank them enough for all their help and getting me on the right track.
So, McCade, do you have any game day rituals or superstitions you'd like to share?
I mean, I guess a lot of guys are kind of the way where they're like on their game day, they don't want to be talked to. It's like kind of you avoid the pitcher of the day there, just kind of like you leave them be and stuff. But I guess I'm kind of a little bit opposite of that. Like I'll have my time where I kind of pop on my headphones and just kind of start to kind of lock in a little bit. But at the same time, I don't like spending too much time doing that. I'd actually prefer like talking to guys, I guess, just kind of staying relaxed, staying loose, not thinking too much about everything that happens. Just, I feel, I guess, no point in thinking about it too much because all the work you did through the week, I guess, should set you up to have a good performance, and you just trust that work, I guess, and so not overthink anything. But yeah, so I kind of like just treating it normal like any other day, just talking to guys and stuff.
So, McCade, we heard that when you first reported to college, you had to have your parents sign all the forms and everything because you were too young to legally do that. I'm sure that was frustrating. Were there any other ways that affected you on campus, or has that affected since?
No, I mean, yeah, it was a little different when I was having some paperwork home to have them sign and then kind of get it sent back here. But I mean, other than just having that paperwork signed, nothing really was different, I guess. Like guys still treated me like I was with them and their age. It's not like they're like a young guy picking on me or anything. That didn't. So it didn't really affect too much. What are your kind of goals for what you want to accomplish this coming spring? Well, obviously the past 2 years I didn't really have strong seasons personally. So just want to be able to maybe have more of a strong season and be able to help the team out, I guess, in a better way. But obviously as a team would like to finish really high in the Big Ten and really compete in the postseason, regional, super regional, all that. But yeah, personally, just hope to help the team a little bit more than I was able to do the past 2 seasons and just have a good year.
So when baseball's done, you throw your last pitch. What do you have lined up after that? What are you thinking about doing after baseball's over?
Oof, I don't even know. All I know is sports. So I haven't thought about that too much, I guess. But
what are you majoring in?
About what I need to think about. Sorry, what was that?
What are you majoring in?
I'm doing just management through SPIA. So just kind of thinking maybe something in the business world at some point, but not 100% sure yet what exactly I want to go for. So, but we'll see. But yeah, now I got to think about that, I guess.
Worry about the baseball first.
And I don't know if you're a big MLB fan, but are there any pitchers or other players that you really enjoy watching or that you model your game off of?
We actually talked about this earlier in kind of like the quarantine. We were shut down a little bit with meetings and stuff. We were talking about kind of comparisons we had or guys that we watch and want to try and learn from. And so I think one of the guys I kind of had listed pretty highly and kept coming back to is I liked watching like Strasburg and how he worked. And so I was watching videos on how he gripped everything and like how he released everything and just kind of how he went about his days and how he worked. So I guess he's one of the guys I kind of model off of. But then as for like guys I enjoy watching is there's 2 guys I've actually got to work with back home. They go to the same pitching coach as I did, work at the same training place. So I've kind of got to watch them and stuff in person and talk to them a little bit. And so just getting to watch them, I guess, throw in the majors. That's Brock Stewart, who was with the Dodgers, and then he went to the Blue Jays and the Cubs. And then also, oh boy, I'm thinking now. Shoot. Oh, James Norwood. There it is. Could picture him. I couldn't remember his name for a second. But he's with the Cubs as well. So just kind of watching them I think is really cool. Just knowing like I've talked to that guy. I've like got to see him throw bullpens in the off season, like at the same place that I throw. Like I think that's just really cool to watch them just from knowing them personally.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. Shout out to Chris Feeney, who prepared questions for tonight's show. You can read up on Indiana baseball at iubase.com. Follow us on Twitter at CUAtTheBart and at IUBase17. On Instagram, it's IUBase. And subscribe to the Talking Hoosier Baseball channel on YouTube, which features these video podcasts, game clips, game day media availabilities, and much more. For Carl James, Josh Bennett, and McCade Brown, I'm Cassidy Palmer. See you at the Bart.